Clearly, as you could expect, there is a difference of opinion between what the Attorney General is saying this afternoon and what President Trump is thinking and what his campaign is thinking. In that interview with the Associated Press, William Barr, the Attorney General, said, to date, we have not seen fraud on a scale that could have affected a different outcome in the election. There are two important words in that statement, to date, which leaves open the possibility that at a future point, we may see some evidence that there is widespread voter irregularity or voter fraud that could begin to change the outcome in some of the states. But to show you how much the campaign is on a different page than the Attorney General, Rudy Giuliani and Jenna Ellis, the president's counsel on the vote challenges, in a statement just a second ago saying, quote, with all due respect to the Attorney General, there hasn't been any semblance of a Department of Justice investigation. We have gathered ample evidence of illegal voting in at least 6 states, which they have not examined. We have many witnesses swearing under oath that they saw crimes being committed in connection with voter fraud. As far as we know, not a single one has been interviewed by the DOJ. The Justice Department also hasn't audited any voting machines or used their subpoena powers to determine the truth. Barr did, in this interview, point to one specific allegation, and that was one that was raised in a press conference by Michael Flynn's attorney, Sidney Powell, that the voting machines were rigged, votes were counted overseas, and software developed under the auspices of the late Venezuelan dictator Hugo Chavez. Barr saying, quote, there has been one assertion there would be systematic fraud, and that would be the claim that machines were programmed essentially to skew the election results. And the DHS and DOJ have looked into that, and so far we haven't seen anything to substantiate that. Barr said weeks before the election that because of mass mail-in voting, the system could be ripe for fraud and abuse. He had given direction to DOJ attorneys to consider substantial allegations of voter fraud. In the interview with the AP, Barr indicated that the DOJ did receive some of those allegations, but that they appeared to be localized.
When your lies are too much even for Bill Barr, you might want to rethink your election theft strategy. This announcement by Fox News came only moments after Bill Barr told the AP that the Department of Justice had not uncovered any evidence of widespread fraud that would change the outcome of the 2020 election. And bear in mind, this is Bill Barr. This is the guy who opted to intervene on Trump's behalf for a defamation lawsuit so that US taxpayers would pay to defend Donald Trump in a sexual assault case. This is the guy who helped block the release of Trump's tax returns, who threw out charges against Michael Flynn after he pleaded guilty, who asked foreign governments to discredit the Mueller report. So for that guy to basically say, yeah, this is too much for me, says a lot. And it's not just Bill Barr. The Trump campaign and its allies have been in court since the moment the polls closed on November 3rd. Out of the roughly 40 lawsuits that they've brought forward, Trump's people have won one single case. They've failed to provide evidence of the exact fraud that they've been publicly touting every chance they get. Why? Because while they're content to lie to their own supporters and know there won't be any consequences, there are consequences for lying in a courtroom. Meaning they're happy to knowingly manipulate their own fans, but they're not willing to risk their own jobs in court by presenting the same baseless arguments to a judge. Funny how that works out, huh? Even Chris Krebs, Trump's own cybersecurity chief from the Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, said the 2020 election was the most secure election in the history of this country. Krebs released a statement saying, quote, while we know there are many unfounded claims and opportunities for misinformation about the process of our elections, we can assure you we have the utmost confidence in the security and integrity of our elections, and you should too. When you have questions, turn to election officials as trusted voices as they administer elections. He was then fired by Trump for committing the cardinal sin of not backing up Trump's baseless election fraud claims, which totally sounds like something you do when you have the facts on your side. And besides all of that, let's just use common sense here. If there was actually widespread fraud like Trump and Giuliani and the rest of his team of low-rent attorneys are alleging, why didn't Democrats take the Senate? Why did we lose seats in the House? Why did we lose state legislatures? You think that Democrats committed the biggest crime in the history of this country and rigged an American election against Trump and for Joe Biden, but forgot to deliver him control of government to actually enact any of his agenda? Democrats rigged an entire election but just overlooked the tiny detail of making sure he could govern? Yeah, no, that makes total sense. At this point, the Trump campaign is now demanding that we believe his election fraud claims, despite what we've heard from hundreds of state and local officials, despite secretaries of state, including Republicans, despite governors, including Republicans, despite the media, including Fox News, despite his own cybersecurity chief, Chris Krebs, and now despite his own Department of Justice, all conceding that there was no evidence of widespread fraud. At some point, we should probably accept that if the options are either that the whole world is lying or that Donald Trump is lying, it's probably Donald Trump. Bill Barr even alludes to Sidney Powell's claim, saying, quote, "There's been one assertion that would be systemic fraud, and that would be the claim that machines were programmed essentially to skew the election results. And the DHS and DOJ have looked into that, and so far, we haven't seen anything to substantiate that." And this is a reference to the idea that Dominion Voting Systems was involved in a scheme, along with Cuba, China, and Venezuela, the CIA, the DOJ, Republican governors and secretaries of state, and just for good measure, Hugo Chavez, who died in 2013, all to deprive Donald Trump of the presidency. Weird how that one didn't seem to pan out. And by the way, this is a theory that had already been thoroughly debunked on Fox News.
Did a Dominion machine change one vote from Biden to Trump or from Trump to Biden?
No. This is a nonpartisan American company. It is not physically possible for our machines to switch votes from one candidate to the other. Let's be very clear. Our election system is run by local elected officials and nonpartisan poll watchers. We simply provide a tool to count the ballots and to print and count ballots. There is no way such a massive fraud could have taken place, and there are no connections between our company and Venezuela, Germany, Barcelona, Kathmandu, whatever the latest conspiracy theory is.
How do you know that could have taken place?
Well, it's physically impossible. Look, when a voter votes on a Dominion machine, they fill out their ballot on a touchscreen. They're given a printed copy, which they then give to a local election official for safekeeping. If any electronic interference had taken place, the tally reported electronically would not match the printed ballots. And in every case where we've looked at, in Georgia, all across the country, the printed ballots, the gold standard in election security, has matched the electronic tally.
Some of the people watching you now, I mean, they don't believe you. They think you're lying. They're going to say, of course you're going to say Dominion's not guilty of anything because you represent the company.
Right. Well, I've got the facts on my side, and the president's attorneys will go on to press conferences, will go on TV and make these crazy allegations, and then 30 times they've gone to court, and they have not offered a scintilla of proof. So all I can say is until we would love to see any facts and evidence they have, thus far we have seen none.
The president calls your company a, quote, radical left company. The software created for Hugo Chavez to steal the election of Venezuela, that software allegedly imported into the United States to steal the election for Joe Biden. Is that true?
No. We are a nonpartisan American company. We have no connections with Venezuela whatsoever. Nothing that they're saying is remotely true.
Are you foreign funded?
No, we're funded by American capitalists.
So at this point, while I'm sure Trump and his mouthpieces will continue to cry fraud, consider the fact that even if the most sycophantic of his acolytes couldn't manage to find evidence of fraud, it's because Trump is lying. So he can deny reality all he wants, but that's not going to actually change reality, which is to say, Donald Trump has lost the election and Joe Biden will be sworn in on January 20th, 2021. If you like this video, please check out my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I take a deep dive into the week's most important stories and interview major players in politics, including Kamala Harris, Katie Porter, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Eric Swalwell, Mary Trump, Al Franken, Cory Booker, and many, many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.